Mr. Jacob Gedley Ilekisa Zuma was the President of the Republic of South Africa from May 9, 2009 until February 14, 2018. President Zuma became involved in politics at an early age, joining the ANC in 1958. He became an active member of the ANC's armed wing, Umkhonto Sizwe, in 1962, following the banning of the ANC in 1960. While leaving the country in 1963, he was arrested with a group of 52 recruits near Zeerust, and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment on Robben Island. After his release, President Zuma helped mobilize internal resistance and was instrumental in the re-establishment of ANC underground structures in the then Natal between 1974 and 1975. He left South Africa in 1975 and for the next 12 years was based in southern Africa, first in Swaziland and then Mozambique. During this period he was involved in underground work with former President Thabo Mbeki and others, giving leadership to ANC structures operating inside South Africa. He also dealt with the thousands of young exiles that poured out of South Africa in the wake of the Soweto uprising in June 1976. He became a member of the ANC National Executive Committee, NEC, in 1977. By the end of the 1980s he was head of the ANC Intelligence Department. Following the unbanning of the ANC in February 1990, he was one of the first ANC leaders to return to South Africa to begin the process of negotiations with the then apartheid regime. Like other leaders involved in talks, he had to convince the ANC membership and support base of the need to negotiate with an apartheid regime that was intent on maintaining its power and influence. President Zuma was instrumental in organizing the Grootshore Minute between the de Klerk government and the ANC that reached important decisions about the return of exiles and the release of political prisoners. His strategic thinking and conflict resolution skills played a pivotal role in ending conflict in KwaZulu-Natal and the then PWV region, where state-sponsored violence was tearing communities apart. In 1991, at the first ANC conference held in South Africa since 1959, he was elected Deputy Secretary General, and after the 1994 elections, he requested to be deployed to KwaZulu-Natal to work to cement peace between the ANC and Inkatha Freedom Party, IFP. He joined the provincial government as Mech of Economic Affairs and Tourism. He played an instrumental role in normalizing relations within the multi-party government of the ANC and IFP. As Mech, President Zuma worked hard to develop the tourism industry in the province and was highly regarded by the sector. He created a good working relationship between business and labor, and worked tirelessly to facilitate new investments into the KwaZulu-Natal economy. In 1994, he was elected ANC National Chairperson. An exception was made in the ANC Constitution to allow him to serve as both Provincial Chairperson and National Chairperson. He was elected ANC Deputy President in December 1997 and he served as Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa from 1999 until June 2005. During his tenure he distinguished himself in his role as mediator and facilitator of peace on the continent, especially in Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. As leader of government business, he worked to ensure good working relations between government and political parties in Parliament, and between Parliament and the executive. He kick-started the process of promoting positive values through the launch of the Moral Regeneration Movement. In 1998 he established the Jacob Zuma RDP Educational Trust Fund. The fund has educated more than 20,000 children at primary school level to university. Beneficiaries are primarily from impoverished backgrounds in rural areas. President Zuma was elected ANC President in December 2007, becoming the ANC's candidate for South African President in the 2009 elections. President Zuma has received several awards, including the Nelson Mandela Award for Outstanding Leadership in Washington, D.C., U.S. in 1998, and honorary doctorates from University of Fort Hare, University of Zululand and Medical University of Southern Africa, University of Limpopo in 2001. He also received honorary doctorates from University of Zambia in 2009, American University of Nigeria, University of Abomey-Calavi of Benin in 2011, Texas Southern University in 2011 and honorary professorship from the Peking University, PKU, of the People's Republic of China in 2012. Jacob Zuma served as President of South Africa from 2009 until he resigned under pressure in 2018. He also had served as the country's Deputy President, 1999 to 2005, and as Deputy President, 1997 to 2007, and President, 2007 to 17, of the country's ruling party, the African National Congress, ANC. Zuma received no formal schooling. He joined the ANC in 1959 and its military wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, Spear of the Nation, in 1962. He was arrested in 1963 and sentenced to 10 years in prison on Robben Island for conspiring to overthrow South Africa's apartheid government. After his release, he set up underground networks to recruit for Umkhonto we Sizwe. In 1975 Zuma fled the country to escape arrest. For more than a decade, he continued to work for the ANC while based in neighboring countries, first in Swaziland and then in Mozambique. He became a member of the ANC's National Executive Committee in 1977. After the government of South Africa exerted pressure on that of Mozambique, Zuma was forced to leave the latter country in 1987. He then went to ANC headquarters in Lusaka, Zambia, where he served as head of underground structures, organizational units, and head of the intelligence department. When the South African government's ban on the ANC was lifted in 1990, Zuma returned to the country and was elected chairperson of the Southern Natal region. He became ANC Deputy General Secretary in 1991, and in 1994 he became a member of the Executive Committee for Economic Affairs and Tourism in the newly created province of KwaZulu-Natal. In December 1997 he was elected Deputy President of the ANC, and in June 1999 he was appointed Deputy President of the country by Pres. Thabo Mbeki. Zuma was widely expected to eventually succeed Mbeki as President of the ANC and as President of the country. In June 2005, however, Mbeki dismissed him after the fraud and corruption conviction of one of Zuma's close colleagues, businessman Shabar Sheikh, who had been accused of soliciting bribes from a French arms company on Zuma's behalf. The judge in that case found that there was a generally corrupt relationship between Sheikh and Zuma, who was subsequently charged with 2 counts of corruption. Zuma initially recused himself from all ANC activities, but the ANC National General Council defied Mbeki by reinstating him as an active member and, eventually, as ANC Deputy President. In March 2006, with the corruption charges still pending, Zuma faced trial on a rape charge, of which he was acquitted in May. In September a Durban court struck the corruption case from the roll, stating that the state's case was not adequate. Despite the repeated allegations of wrongdoing which his many supporters claimed were politically motivated, Zuma remained a popular figure within the ANC. At the party's conference in December 2007, he was selected over Mbeki to be party president in what proved to be one of the most contentious leadership battles in the ANC's history. Later that month, Zuma was recharged with corruption and fraud, and additional charges of money laundering, racketeering, and tax evasion were brought against him. These charges were eventually dismissed on a legal technicality in September 2008. Prosecutors from the National Prosecuting Agency, NPA, vowed to appeal the ruling, angering many in the ANC. In addition, the presiding judge said there was evidence of political interference by Mbeki or his supporters in Zuma's prosecution, which ignited even more controversy within the party. Although Mbeki vehemently denied the allegations, a week later the ANC asked him to resign as President of South Africa, which he agreed to do. Although Zuma was widely expected to be chosen as the country's next president in the 2009 election, he was not eligible to serve as interim president, who under the terms of the constitution had to be a member of the National Assembly. Zuma Alike Galema Motlanthe was the ANC's candidate for the position, and he was the overwhelming winner in a vote held by the National Assembly in late September 2008. In the weeks leading up to the 2009 general election, the corruption charges against Zuma and the allegations of political interference were once again in the spotlight, culminating with an announcement by the NPA on April 6, 2009, that the charges would be withdrawn. Although prosecutors stated they felt the corruption charges had merit, they noted evidence of misconduct in the handling of Zuma's case and cited taped phone conversations that had recently come to light between the former head of the NPA and the former head of the Scorpions, an investigative unit that was attached to the NPA before being disbanded in 2009. The taped conversations included discussion of the timing of the reinstatement of charges against Zuma shortly after he was named president of the ANC in late 2007. Opposition parties decried the withdrawal of the charges, claiming that the NPA bowed to pressure from the ANC to drop the charges before the election and that the question of Zuma's innocence was still unresolved. Nevertheless, the ANC performed strongly in the general election held on April 22, 2009, finishing far ahead of the other parties, and Zuma was poised to become the country's next president. He was officially elected to the presidency in a National Assembly vote, held on May 6. He was inaugurated on May 9. Zuma adheres to many traditional Zulu customs, including polygamy, more precisely, polygyny. This has endeared him to some segments of the population but has also been a source of criticism from others, who find some customs to be at odds with what they consider to be modern societal norms. Other aspects of his personal life were also subject to criticism. In early February 2010 there were allegations that Zuma had fathered a child out of wedlock, something frowned upon in traditional Zulu culture. Zuma admitted that he had. As the controversy surrounding this incident continued to grow, critics claimed, among other things, that his behavior showed a blatant disregard for the country's HIV/AIDS policies. He apologized for the distress that his actions had brought to his family, the ANC, and the South African population. During his term as president, Zuma was involved in continental affairs, taking a role in mediation efforts to resolve crises in Africa on behalf of the Southern African Development Community or African Union, including those in Zimbabwe, Libya, and Côte d'Ivoire. At home, although there had been some progress made by the government's anti-poverty initiatives, he faced simmering discontent over the economic inequality still present in the country. He also continued to face allegations of corruption, which included the re-emergence of older charges. In March 2012 the Supreme Court of Appeal ordered a review by the Pretoria High Court of the 2009 decision by state prosecutors to drop corruption charges against Zuma. In spite of those troubles, Zuma was overwhelmingly re-elected as president of the ANC at the party's conference held in December 2012. Zuma continued to be affected by allegations of corrupt or unethical behavior in the following years. One such example was the controversy generated by the misuse of government resources that occurred when the Guptas, a wealthy business family with whom he had very close ties, were allowed to land a private plane at a high-security government air base as they transported guests to a family wedding in 2013. Zuma denied having anything to do with that, and one government investigation cleared him of having been involved, but widespread criticism over the event remained. He also had to deal with allegations of impropriety regarding extensive state-funded upgrades ostensibly for security reasons to his private homestead at Nkandla in KwaZulu-Natal. Discussions regarding the questionable upgrades first surfaced in late 2009 but gathered steam in the following years and came to a head when Thuli Madonsela, the country's public protector, the National Ombudsman, released an official report in March 2014 that detailed the findings of a 2-year investigation. It concluded that many of the publicly funded improvements made to Zuma's homestead, such as a swimming pool, an amphitheater, and a cattle kraal, were not security-related. Zuma was found to have benefited unduly from the improvements and was called upon to repay a percentage of the costs of the non-security upgrades. The economic problems and cloud of corruption did not detract a significant amount of support from the ANC, which managed to do well in the 2014 elections and virtually guaranteed Zuma a second term as president. he was officially re-elected to the post by the National Assembly on May 21 and sworn in on May 24. Nkandla continued to haunt Zuma. Two opposition parties brought a case regarding repayment to the Constitutional Court, which in March 2016 unanimously ruled that the public protector's findings were binding and that Zuma's disregard of the public protector's findings and recommendation to repay the money was a failure to uphold, defend, and respect the Constitution, and ordered him to repay the state for some of the upgrades. Earlier that month, his relationship with the Gupta family had made news again, over allegations that the family had promised government portfolios to some individuals. In early April, Zuma survived an impeachment motion in the ANC-dominated National Assembly, but many, including some senior ANC members, were weary of Zuma's scandals and called for him to step down or be recalled. Later that month, Zuma was once again the center of negative attention, with a High Court ruling that said the 2009 decision by state prosecutors to drop corruption charges against Zuma was not rational and should be reviewed and set aside. Faced with the prospect of having corruption-related charges reinstated against him, Zuma petitioned the Supreme Court to be allowed to appeal the High Court's decision. Separately, the NPA also petitioned the Constitutional Court to be allowed to appeal the decision. In September, the Constitutional Court denied the NPA's request to appeal, and the NPA then filed an appeal with the Supreme Court. In October 2017, the Supreme Court ruled against Zuma and the NPA's appeals, stating that the corruption charges should not have been dismissed and could be reinstated. Meanwhile, the ongoing scandals and allegations of corruption associated with Zuma, as well as dissatisfaction with the performance of the ANC-led governments at all levels, took a toll on support for the party. In what was widely seen as a referendum on Zuma and the ANC, the August 2016 municipal elections, the party took the smallest percentage of the total vote since it took power in 1994, garnering less than 60%. In mid-October 2016, Madonsela, in one of her last acts before stepping down as public protector, was due to release a report of her office's investigation into allegations that members of the Gupta family had wielded undue political influence on Zuma and other government officials. Zuma went to court to delay the report's release, but on November 2 he withdrew his challenge, and the report was released later that day. Entitled State of Capture, it detailed several instances of possible undue influence and recommended that a judicial inquiry team be established to further investigate the allegations mentioned in the report, but it did not accuse Zuma of having committed any crimes. On the heels of the report's release, a vote of no confidence against Zuma was held in the National Assembly, but it failed. Although Zuma did not stand for a third term as president of the ANC, he was invested in the outcome of the December 2017 contest, which was between Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, his former wife and an experienced politician, and ANC Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Zuma supported Dlamini Zuma's candidacy, with some analysts asserting that he assumed that if she were elected, she would be able to shield him from future prosecution for corruption charges after he left office. Dlamini Zuma's vision for the party's policies also represented much of a continuation of Zuma's agenda. Ramaphosa, however, campaigned on a promise of cracking down on corruption and encouraging economic growth. He defeated Dlamini Zuma in a closely contested race. On the heels of the disappointing election outcome, Zuma was dealt another blow with the ruling by the Constitutional Court on December 29, 2017, that said the National Assembly had failed in its duties by not holding Zuma accountable with regard to the Nkandla scandal. Furthermore, the court ordered the National Assembly to institute a process to be used in the future for removing a president from office, thus increasing the likelihood that Zuma might once again face impeachment proceedings or succumb to pressure from within the ANC to resign before that could happen. The situation came to a head in February 2018. After a series of tense meetings, on February 13, the ANC announced that it had recalled Zuma, and it expected a response from him, presumably that he would offer his resignation within a day. Zuma's initial reaction indicated that he had no intention of resigning, as he claimed that he had done nothing wrong and he complained that the ANC was treating him unfairly. He did, however, offer his resignation on February 14, 2018. Ramaphosa was sworn in as President of South Africa the next day. Soon after stepping down, Zuma was confronted with more legal challenges. In March 2018, the NPA announced that it was reinstating the charges against Zuma pertaining to his relationship with Sheikh and a French arms company. He faced 16 charges relating to racketeering, corruption, money laundering, and fraud. Zuma pled not guilty at the trial, which began in May 2021. In a separate matter, a public investigation about allegations of corruption during Zuma's presidency, stemming from Madonsela's 2016 State of Capture report, was underway. Hearings began in August 2018. Zuma appeared before the investigatory commission to provide some testimony in July 2019 but then refused to participate any further. He accused the head of the commission, Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, of being biased against him and demanded his recusal, which was denied. In June 2021, the Constitutional Court found Zuma to be in contempt of court for his refusal to participate in the commission hearings and sentenced him to 15 months in jail. Zuma began serving his sentence in July, but in August he was taken to a hospital for surgery pertaining to an undisclosed medical condition. The next month he was granted medical parole and allowed to serve the remainder of his sentence from home. Thank you for watching this video.